Joel Ssenyonyi tuli mu Parliament kitokota. Anti omuliro gwatandise dda gwakoledde ekyokumugaana ogenda okulambula ensimbi z'omusolo we zigenda ku ddwaliro lizimbe Lubowa erigambibwa nti Pineti Museveni yaligaanako abantu ogenda oddirambula ensonga zaakalambidde dda ekiri mu Parliament kitokota sikisaanikire. Joel Ssenyonyi alinnye ku mmeeza agamba nedda ne Speaker amuwagidde n'aba NRM bamuwagidde ne baminisita bamuwagidde n'abawuludda lwakulembera bamuwagidde. Ekigambo kyaduze dda eddwaliro lirina okunoonyezebwa we liri ensimbi ani azirya bulijjo babiyita byamannyo wenu ate no Joel Ssenyonyi agenda kubasobola kubanga abakoloze bonna ne bakkiriza. Kati tugende mu Parliament naawe obyerabireko era omwewulirireko Joel Ssenyonyi akulembera gavumenti ya Kyagulanyi mu Parliament ng'abasiikasiika.
By the way, that position is an established position, not contingent to the governor. Let the deputy governor work. Let him work. Yes. Why you leave Dr. Ting and go to work? You work. You go to the phone. You see your calling there saying, the eyes have it. Can I have the leader of opposition in the Parliament?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, in your communication, you have hinted on several critical matters. I want to firstly join you in condoling with the family of the late now, Dr. Engineer Daniel Bosa, who's been the head of the Ndiga clan. Right Honorable Speaker, we have had so many unresolved murders in this country, and Ugandans increasingly get agitated. They're now taking matters in their own hands. I don't think that's a place we want to be at. This mob justice is actually not mob justice, it's mob action. These are people saying, we don't trust that the killers will be brought to book, let's deal with them ourselves. Once this becomes prevalent, even innocent people along the way could suffer. I'm glad, Right Honorable Speaker, you have directed the Minister of Internal Affairs to bring a report to this House. Maybe you'll guide the duration when that should happen on all these unresolved matters so that we know and so that the country gets to know what's happening and whether or not people should keep doing what they're doing, which is improper. But we need some kind of assurance from government. What is the latest? What is happening with these investigations? Right Honorable Speaker, as you did mention, I went with a couple of members of Parliament to the Lubowa hospital site. We wrote to the Minister of Health, among other things, also requesting her to join us and to take us around or to delegate somebody from the ministry so that we establish what exactly is going on. Parliament injects plenty of money on an annual basis to this project. The minister wrote back to me and she indicated she couldn't make it. She had a cabinet meeting, but she signed off by saying, I wish you a successful tour. And Right Honorable Speaker, I want to table a copy of this response by the minister. Of course, people interpreted that variously. Some to say, well, this minister has been denied access to those very premises, and yet she's in charge. So by her signing off and saying she's glad about the tour we are doing, but signs off by saying, I wish you a successful tour. No wonder we made the resistance that we made and we could not access. Honorable Speaker, it's important that this Parliament, and by extension, the nation gets to know who exactly is in charge of this project. Because the Ministry of Health, as far as I understand, it should be in charge of the project. We are told it is now Office of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has said, no, it is Ministry of Health. Yesterday, the police officers and then military and so on, they kept telling us, you have not got clearance. I said, but this project is under Ministry of Health. Here is a letter of clearance from the Ministry of Health. So, Right Honorable Speaker, government needs to tell us who exactly is in charge of this project. The Minister of Internal Affairs should also explain to this House why members of parliament have been denied access, not just yesterday, but even in the past, denied access by security outfits. Why? Because as parliament, we appropriate this money, billions of shillings on an annual basis. Why is it that now security does not want us to go and establish the money that we are sending? What is it doing? With your indulgence, Madam Speaker, I think the Minister of Internal Affairs needs to let this House know why, as Parliament, we cannot have access. You have said the Deputy Speaker should go there on Wednesday. As the Minister of Health has said, we wish him a successful tour. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Health and or the Minister of Finance should give a status update to this Parliament and account for the money so far spent. Because denying us access to these premises is a clear indication that maybe there's not much going on. So we want to appeal to you, Right Honorable Speaker.
There's a procedure matter.
Thank you, Madam. My concern, Madam Speaker, so many of my honorable colleagues have talked about Lubowa, but there was one submission that was very critical that we should have listened to properly. The Honorable Mwangachivumbi said the Auditor General went and did an audit on this project, and he was allowed time to understand the project. And he's about to bring that report to us. My procedural matter was, Madam Speaker, don't you think it would be procedurally right to wait for that report to come here? Possibly, it could answer most of the questions we're putting out, because the Auditor General, the Auditor General is part of Parliament. By the fact that he was allowed to access the site, do an audit, I believe he will give us the proper answers because he's part of this Parliament. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Clearly, some things don't need to be responded to. I'm sure that's why, as Speaker, you have said I proceed. Right Honorable Speaker, as I was saying, we need to compel the Minister of Health and or the Minister of Finance to come to this Parliament, give us a status report and account for the money so far that has been spent on this project, because we don't know what's going on there. We are denied access, and yet we appropriate this money. So the taxpayers are now blaming Parliament. They're saying, you people appropriate this money. What is it doing? Maybe you need to stop. So it's important that they come and account to us and by extension to the general public. With the Speaker's permission, I can take the information.
Thank you, Right Honorable Lop. And Right Honorable Speaker, the information that I want to give this House is that the Women's Specialized and Neonatal Hospital, a 450-bed facility, was constructed at $34 million. The Lubowa Hospital is supposed to be a 200-bed hospital, and you know how much has been spent so far.
How much has been spent?
Madam Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker.
So far, 150 million US dollars so far.
It's over 5 times, yes, close to 5 times what was spent. Over 400 billion. I don't have the figure. Yes.
Get the information from the minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the total project cost under Lubowa Hospital is 379 million 789 million US dollars.
Honorable members, listen.
We have so far paid through promissory notes an amount of United States dollars 156 million dollars.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, that's the information that I wanted this House to know. as we talk about Lubowa, that with the $34 million, we were able to put up a 450-bed facility at Mulago for the women.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lop.
Thank you, Honorable, for that very imperative information. Right, Honorable Speaker, we actually intend to move this House via motion that, number one, even as we wait for that accountability, because money has been spent already and the Minister of Finance has confirmed. But one, that we halt as Parliament paying any more money to Lubowa Hospital because they are not accountable. We cannot access to see what's happening there. Let us hold. Because otherwise the taxpayer will blame us as Parliament. Number two, Right Honorable Speaker, we think that...
First of all, I want to find out, are there obligations that you've entered into that cannot be stopped in terms of promissory? I want to get a legal opinion to that effect.
Right Honorable Speaker, I think we need to look at the terms of the contract and understand that question, I'm not in a position to answer it at this point. Whether there are any obligations that have been entered into which can't be stopped.
Okay.
Right Honorable Speaker, you see the practice financially and even legally of promissory notes. Before another promissory note is issued, the contractor is meant to give a certificate of milestone completion. Yes. And that's the accountability we want. So far, I mean, why do you keep issuing promissory notes?
Maybe we need to get the certificates of the milestone completion that were given to finance before finance made payment.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And that's part of the accountability that we are demanding as Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, I think it would be prudent, and as colleague gave information, we have got hospitals in this country.
There is information.
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and my brother, the Leader of Opposition. Madam Speaker, we were told in this House that this contract was supposed to be executed in 2 years, and it is now coming to 7 years since this work began. I don't know if we are still going by the same contract and the same agreement and understanding that was presented to this House when we secured 396 billion shillings to facilitate that work to start. The work was supposed to be concluded in 2 years, had to be handed over to the government of Uganda after 8 years, and I don't know if that contract still stands.
Thank you for the information. Right Honorable Speaker, the agreement was revised for this engagement, Right Honorable Speaker. Two things, maybe three, are problematic. One, the scope of the work was actually lessened, and yet the amount of money was increased. It does not quite make sense, because if the scope is lessened, then the money should lessen. However, that revised agreement has never been tabled here in Parliament. So why is government operating that way and you only come to Parliament as an ATM? Because the first agreement was tabled. The revised agreement, why has it not been tabled here in Parliament? Number two, Right Honorable Speaker, for that revision of the amount, it's Parliament that is meant to approve when you say you want to revise the amount. And that's why it is important. Maybe I wait for the Chief Whip who is obstructing the Speaker. I apologize, Right Honorable Speaker. I wanted to catch your eye for this very critical issue, that the agreement was revised, the scope was lessened, but the amount was increased. However, that revised agreement has not been tabled here in Parliament. So we don't know what's going on. And also, Parliament has got to approve. I'll take the information.
I thank you, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition in Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, just in relation to the point that the Leader of Opposition is bringing to this House. Madam Speaker, in the 10th Parliament, I happen to have been in the Committee of National Economy, that processed this loan. Madam Speaker, one of the critical issues that the committee grappled with, first of all, just to add to what Honorable Jonathan Odur said, was that the Honorable Minister of Health was very hesitant in supporting this loan before our committee.
Which Minister of Health? Was it Acheng?
At that time, the Honorable Jane Ruth Acheng.
Oh, you opened.
No,
I want it on record.
The Honorable Jane Ruth Acheng,
Not
appeared.
Not opened.
The Honorable Pendi was a Minister of State for Health.
Okay.
Now, Madam Speaker, may I just, with your permission, elaborate on this point? At that point, the Ministry of Health themselves were a little bit worried about the competence and the experience of the leader in as far as the joint purpose vehicle was concerned, because that was Pinetti Enrica. Madam Speaker, when the committee got into a state where we had to make a decision, we unpacked the JPV, the joint purpose vehicle, and at that time, the committee was persuaded that Rocco was still very competent in as far as construction was concerned. In the JPV, we had been made to understand that Enrica would bring in 1, technical expertise, 2, the competence. Whereas the person who was supposed to do the construction was the partner, who was Rocco. Madam Speaker, within 2 weeks of passing the loan here, Rocco was thrown out of the JPV. This brought in a challenge that Enrica did not have the competence to undertake construction because they were simply agents of persons who were supposed to supply us the equipment and train the experts that were supposed to work in the hospital. That is the reason, as of today, Enrica cannot take off from the aspect of construction because they do not have the capacity to undertake construction. Madam Speaker, as I informed the law, what therefore baffles this House is that if the total amount of the loan was $379 million, how possible is it that the Ministry of Finance continued to pay up to $150 million, and yet the total amount included equipment, included training of specialists, included transfer of knowledge, which are other aspects other than the construction? Number 2, Honorable Law, the other question other than simply reduction in the scope of works, the loan that this House passed included a partner in the JPV. Which partner? That was Rocco. This House understood would undertake the construction. Who then, other than this Parliament, authorized Enrique Pinetti to undertake the aspect of construction? It means that already the JPV or the agreement with Uganda had been abused by the other person, and therefore it should have collapsed. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank you, Honorable Law.
Honorable members, thank you so much, Honorable Rico, on that. As you conclude the law, Honorable Chivumbi already asked for the audit report, which is before the auditors, and then we'll also expect a report from the team that is going there on Wednesday. We'll expect a report on that, and then we'll also need the certificates from finance that they based on what release of the monies.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and for the information the colleagues have raised. Madam Speaker, as we speak now, there is no contractor on site because Rocco abandoned the site. However, as you remember, in December, 2.7 billion shillings through a supplementary was allotted to supervise ongoing construction. Which construction? I think we are taking the taxpayer for granted in very annoying ways, because you're saying we need money, 2.7 billion, just to supervise construction. But there's no constructor on site, he abandoned. Our hope lastly on this very issue, Right Honorable Speaker, we would like to move Parliament. Can we begin to allocate this money to the referrals that we have in this country, to the health center force that are functional, they are operating, but they are struggling with shortages of drugs, medical equipment, and so on. At least there we know we are sending money where it is needed.
And the staff, for instance, we passed along organ transplant. They don't have staff. The dialysis, they don't have staff. The ICU of Mulago does not have staff. And yet we have the best equipments in this country. So we should put that money in that. Honorable members, Lop, thank you so much.
Madam Speaker, I request for 2 minutes to wrap up. You did communicate about rationalization, and I want to thank you for pointing out some very critical issues that we've been grappling with. Legally, the wording of these bills, it's going to raise unnecessary legal challenges.
That is going to be responded to.
Yeah. Number two, Right Honorable Speaker and members, you see, these entities were created for efficiency. Now that we are saying, let's send them back to the ministries, what guarantee do we have that efficiency has been created? So all is going to be well. An example, Right Honorable Speaker, REA was rationalized.
Now you've started on anticipation.
I was just giving a general picture in response to your
because you're still going to speak. You're still going to speak as a law after they have presented.
That's right. I was just giving this example to paint a general picture so that as we are debating, Right Honorable Speaker, we think about these critical issues. So I was saying, when REA was rationalized and merged with the Ministry of Energy, the ministry actually decided to reallocate that money, which REA was meant to receive, to other activities. So the activities that REA was undertaking have come to a halt. So as we are saying, rationalizing, let's take them back to the ministries for efficiency to happen, it does not seem to be the case. And Right Honorable Speaker, government needs to come clean. What exactly are they trying to do? Even as they are rushing Parliament, let's deal with this issue very critically. We need to be guarded ourselves as Parliament so that we are not run through a brick wall.
But by the way, nobody is rushing Parliament. The issue is, yes, if we are to rationalize, if we are to remove these entities, some of these entities, we are in a budgeting process. When you look at the budget circular, none of these entities has been budgeted for. It has not been budgeted for. So we need to act as a house. If you want these institutions to remain without money and we say, okay, let's also sit back, because the power to rationalize is on us. So it is us to determine whether we rationalize and have the money put there. But now the fact that finance has decided not to give these people money, what do? We need to come in as an institution. Honorable members.
Right Honorable, as I wrap up, this is Right Honorable Speaker, I actually
can you have a seat?
Right Honorable Speaker, you're right, the power to rationalize lies with Parliament. The executive seems to be taking that away from us because they have rationalized on the financial end. They're saying we are not budgeting for these ones. So it's as if Parliament is being arm twisted. Let's retain that power and we process all of this work without being arm twisted by the executive. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable member, thank you so much, Lop. In the public gallery this morning, we have students and lecturers from Kiambogo.
Joelo Ssenyonyi Agya bw'ate ensonga bw'azisengese ez'eddwaliro ly'e Lubowa, ez'obutamu mu ggwanga, ez'okuba nti ensimbi eziweebwayo okuzimba eddwaliro ly'e Lubowa litagenda mu maaso atali construction name, ensimbi ezo zandibadde ziggyibwayo ne ziteekebwa e Mulago n'amalwaliro amalala already agali mu operation, amalwaliro ago gazikozese okukola okutuusa obujjanjabi ku bannansi okusinga oziteeka wezitalina mugaso nga babbi babbanzibe kyokka nga ne bannansi bongera kufa ate nga bawa omusolo omuyitirivu. Kale tweyanzizza Lop Joel Ssenyonyi n'ensonga ezo ennungi bwe zityo katulindire tulabe ate ekinaaba kiddako.